Well, good morning. Today we are doing something for the very first time. Now, as you may have seen on Adam's channel, me and Adam have both recently just completed a solar and battery storage course. Today I get to fit my first ever solar. Now, it's a bit of an odd one because the property already has panels on the roof, but in the process of the property being sold and the new owner purchasing, somebody has stolen the inverter. So they have opted to have a new inverter with battery storage, which we are going to collect in a second from Strike Electrical in Warsaw. So a big shout out to them because they have sourced all the equipment for us. We'll run through exactly what it is shortly, and we'll see you at the job. So we're at the property. We've been to Strike, we've picked up our inverter and our battery, and I'm going to quickly show you what we've got. So we have a 3.6 kilowatt SunSync hybrid inverter. This means that we only need the inverter, no additional inverter for the battery, so this will all connect together. It's quite a sleek looking unit. I've looked at a few reviews, spoke to the customer. This is what we've gone for. So we have a 3.6 kilowatt inverter and a 5.3 kilowatt battery for this property. Now, because this is a new property that the customer's purchased, he thought, he was like, brilliant, we've got solar on the roof. Fantastic. Let me just take you up into the loft and see what's got up in there. So, like I said downstairs, the customer thought he was onto a win with this property because it had solar on the roof already. But somebody in the process of this property being sold at auction has come in and stolen the inverter. So what he does have is a DC connection point here. There is 8 panels on the roof this side, and there is 8 panels on the roof this side. What we are going to do is utilize the DC cables that are in here. We are going to re-terminate them. We are going to bring them along here, following where the original 4mm feed come up from downstairs. Take this 4mm feed out, pop out to outside, 25mm tube down the wall, back into under the stairs where we're going to mount our inverter and our battery. Now, like I've said, this is new to me. I have not done solar before, neither have I ever done solar on my own. So let's see how it goes. We're going to crack on with what we can, see how far we get with it today. Having a quick look under the stairs at what we have down here, I'll show you where we're at. So we have originally a PVDB that had been fitted. It's got a generation meter inside it. What we're going to do is we're going to be taking all of this out, tidying all this up because it's an absolute mess. We are actually going to be rewiring this property as well. The customer has asked us to rewire it. It's in the process of all being ripped out at the moment, so it's going to have a full renovation on it. That is going to be another video, so we're going to do a full rewire on it for rental purposes. Now, it's going to be a bit strange because there is no gas in this property, so it is all going to be electric heating, hence the reason that the customer wanted to utilise the solar. Some of you may be aware that when you rent a property, you have an EPC rating given on it, so it's an energy performance calculation. What that does is it tells you how efficient the property is. Now, with electric heating in a property, even though it's going to be ceramic radiators that are smart controlled, brings your EPC rating down. But by adding the solar with the battery and the inverter back in, it's going to bring that EPC rating back up. So it's a good worthwhile investment. It's going to add value to the property in the long run. So it's all good from there. But like I say, we're going to be taking majority of this lot out. It's no longer needed. We're going to be fitting a inverter on the wall here. Customers agreed that we can take this off, so that's gone. The inverter's going to sit up here. Battery's going to sit down here. We're going to take this bit of wiring out here as well, so all that's gone, and just give it a good tidy up. So let's start having a look at what we've got, and we'll start unpacking a few bits. So inverter is out of the box. This is, as I've said, the 3.6 kilowatt SunSync inverter. This means that we are G98 approval for the DNO, which means we can notify after we've completed the installation. As I've said, this is my first solar job. This is going to be the one I'm going to be using for my MCS. So even though there's a couple of things that I'm unsure of, I'm just going to make sure 100%. So this inverter on the side has a DC isolator. Now, that's great, but I'm not 100% sure that that is enough for the MCS, because it stipulates it has to be able to be locked off. Now, this cannot be locked off. So what we're going to be doing is we'll site a couple of DC isolators below this inverter on the wall. That will then take us into our input string. So we have two inputs in here. We have a battery positive and a battery negative, a couple of COM points, generation, load, and then grid. So we're going to run through, we're going to get this mounted on the wall so we can start seeing where we're going to plan everything out and then go from there. So a little bit of huffing and puffing later, shouting at the apprentice because he's not here and it is 9:28. He's late. We have a PV inverter on the wall. This will also charge the battery, which is also on the wall. And I've got to say, it does look pretty cool. I'm actually really enjoying doing this. Maybe it's because it's new, maybe it's because I've not done it before, but either way, I'm still having some fun with this one. We are going to get some of the connections made up, start getting some of the trunking in place on the wall, mount the fuse board that we're going to be using, start getting all those sort of bits ready, and we are just waiting for an AC isolator to come from the wholesalers, but they've assured me that it's coming out at some point this morning, so we've not got much to worry about with that one. So we have a little bit of progression here. The inverter is now on the wall, the battery is on the wall, the trunking is around the bottom to allow us to bring our DC cables into there. We have the trunking going across the back, which is where we are going to be mounting our fuse box board, which is this one right here. So this board has surge protection, main switch, 32 amp breaker for the SPD. We're going to be putting another 32 amp breaker in here, as well as an AC isolator to be able to go out to the inverter. We're going to get this on the wall. We've drilled two 20mm holes in the bottom and a 32mm hole, put some fire seals in there and drop that into the top of the trunking, which we'll cut out as well. So a little bit of an update of where we are at. The trunking is now in, ready for our tails for this Soalr DB. That is the earth that is coming to the inverter, which then goes through the meter. Now, because obviously this is a generation meter, what would normally be a load coming in, so we normally go from the board into here and then out, is actually backwards. So the generation meter needs to go through and then through into this side of the meter, which is backwards to what you'd normally expect. But because obviously it's solar, this is actually the feed and this is technically the load. So we're going to go back through this way. That side's all connected. I'm just waiting for some more 6mm HO7 to turn up. The earth is in here. Now, unfortunately, the one that we had wasn't long enough, so what we'll do is we'll put a connector into here. That will then give us the earth up to there. We've then got to run our DC cables down from the loft, which is going to come through around about here, where the old 4mm cable come through. We're going to put some Copex in the trunking to make sure that we have segregation of AC and DC. So we'll run some Copex in the trunking up to here with two 20mm stuffing glands that are in here. Our DC strings will then loop out into the bottom of here, and we're pretty much good to go. A few cables and everything's tied up down the side, which is what I'm going to do now, just while I'm waiting for some bits. And I'll come back to you in a bit. So we have just come outside to start having a look at the original tube that went up the building. Now, it's quite interesting. Have a look at the state of that. Hardly any saddles on there in the incorrect positions. It comes down. Clear proof that it isn't adequately sealed, because in here is full of slugs and slime. So what we're going to do is we're going to rip this off, we're going to drill a bigger hole through, we're going to put some new 25mm tube down the wall. It's going to take us back up into the loft and start doing our connections up there. So what we have opted for in here is a Lovato DIN rail mounted AC isolator. So what this is going to be able to allow us to do is, instead of having a normal isolator, rotor isolator next to the board here, big grey, yellow and red thing in somebody's house, this gives us the AC isolation. It is fully rotary. It does everything that's required, and it means that we can hide it away in the board nice and neatly. So we're going to take our feed is going to come out of the meter into this, out of this into the breaker. So we'll get all that connected up, show you exactly what it looks like in a second. So we've progressed a little bit further. We now have all 4 of our string cables into the area where the inverter is. Those go currently outside to here. Ash is currently sorting out some containment outside for them. We've put 25mm tube in. We're going to send that right the way up into the loft, where we'll be able to meet up with the original DC cables off the roof. Ash is just getting the cables all nicely into some tube. We've laid them all out so it's easy to deal with. So he's going to start sorting that out, put some additional saddles in, because as you can see here, there was a saddle here on this one, and then the next one is all the way up here, so there's about a metre gap between them, which is not acceptable. So we're going to put some new saddles in, sort that out. I'm going to go and terminate the other end. All the cables have their own marking on them, so 1, 2, 3 and 4. I'll make a note of what I use then in the bottom of the inverter in here, so everything can match up there. As per the training that we've undertaken, we need to make sure that this side is fully terminated before we do anything with the roof side. So it just limits the amount of risk of these DC cables being live, because they are solar panels, they are live, and they will be live all the time. So I have now ran some Copex inside this trunking. As far as I'm aware, DC cables and AC cables need to be segregated. So I'm pretty sure this is adequate segregation for it. That's a Copex that runs all the way around up to the point where it is no longer any AC. Then the 2 strings pop through some stuffing glands just here, and they're going to drop around and loop into the bottom of the inverter. So we're going to get the connections done on those now, and get all this buttoned up, lid on, so we're ready to start having a look at what we've got to do in the loft. So we have got the DC connections done. All these connectors have all been crimped and are sorted and ready to go. Stuffing glands are tightened up onto the cable nice and snug. We've dressed the cables in. In here now is pretty much done. I'm quite surprised, considering I've not done this before. We are 1:30, so it's took me about 4.5 hours since I got going. This is with obviously stopping and doing a bit of filming with bits and pieces with it along the way. But primarily, it's not taken that long. Everything is in place, trunking's all buttoned up all nice and neatly. Some of you might have noticed, I've had a little bit of a change of clothes. So I have now got to go and pop out to go and have a meeting with a new potential client. Now, this potential client is worth quite a few pounds in work. So at the moment, we are looking at around about 2,200 houses that have got to have the solar removed from the loft and put into an outhouse outside. Ash is still staying on site. He's here and he's just sorting out the conduit for up the side of the property. He's fitting the saddles all the way up. They are mounted at 450 between each one. That's going to take us right the way up to the loft, up to the top, where we're going to take our DC cable straight through and then connect on to what was left behind previously. But for now, I am going to shoot off and I will come back to you shortly. Back at the solar job. I had to pop out, I had a few bits to go and do. I've been and had my meeting, I've come back and we've just started buttoning everything up. So I'm going to quickly turn around and show you exactly where we're at with everything. So the inverter is all fully mounted, done and complete. My uni light has just gone off. Back in a second. So uni light back on. We have SunSync 3.6 kilowatt inverter under the stairs. We also have a 5.3 kilowatt battery. Now, I've never set one of these up before. I've followed the instructions as much as possible. SunSync do a really, really good job of making sure that there is loads of instruction videos on YouTube. But the videos are all well and good, but sometimes you need that little bit of extra touch. So, when I've spoken to SunSync, they've showed me that up here, in some of these settings, there is a mode setting. Now, this is all the mode information for the inverter. This is, when I can click on it, I had limit to load clipped. So what happens is the load of this property at the moment is negative 0.65. So it's using absolutely nothing. It's actually exporting at the moment. So I had that here set to match this, which what meant that was doing, it was only drawing the required load for the property. I've gone through the settings with the guy on the phone and he has helped me out with it all, pointed me in the right direction with it. Everything is now set up. So some of you may be aware that on an electricity meter, there is this little light. This imp meter is, so this will flash 4,000 times for every kilowatt. So if we now come in here and utilise free electricity, we can now turn the kettle on, come back to the inverter, and this will show us now that our load is going to start increasing. So we are now 2.37 kilowatts of load on the property. We are producing 0.6. Our battery is giving us 1.8, which means at the moment we have got free electricity. This has been a fantastic little project. I've really enjoyed it. It's not something that I've ever done before, but it is something that we're going to be doing more of. This is a site that I'm going to be using as part of my MCS accreditation. That is happening on the 22nd. Everything's all done for them. I've had some PV stickers created. So we have DC isolator, so a sticker on the DC isolator side and the side of the inverter. There's live DC cable stickers on the trunking. We've tagged everything else up as well. We have the solar PV roof sticker on by the meter, as well as the generation meter labelled up and our distribution board. I've got a couple of little stickers to pop on these for the SPD and the isolator for the MCB for the isolator, so that can then be locked off if ever needed. But we have a rotary isolator as required. Everything outside is labelled up. Ash has completed the tube work up the side of the property, which brings our DC strings down. That comes down in some black 25mm PVC tube. We have a live DC cable warning sticker here. There is one in the middle and there is also one right at the top as well. All in all, this inverter has been fantastic to install. I've had no problems with it. It's not given me any major issues. It's been nice and straightforward. So I cannot recommend it enough. I can't say it's the easiest one on the market because I've not fitted any of the others, but from what I have fitted, it's been really, really easy. Thank you ever so much for your time watching this. I hope it helps you out a little bit, and please, please feel free to critique it down below. I'd rather have some positive and negative comments from people. If I can learn from something, I will do. If there's something that I should do or try again and be better at, then please let me. But for now, thank you very much and we'll see you later.